Hi, I'm Kellie Chasse. I have full online classes and tutorials every month on my website at www.kellychassefineart.com. And I have over 10,000 students and over 15 years experience teaching art. So if you have a chance, head over to my website and check them out. So hey everyone, welcome here. This is Kimberly Deene, and Kimberly does absolutely gorgeous alcohol ink flowers and many other things as well. I've been following you now for I don't know how long, a long time, and she uses, I believe it's canned air to blow your petals, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and she's got like this amazing center, and we're going to talk about that, how you kind of came up with that whole thing with the center, but her floral designs are just absolutely breathtaking. So I am so excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank
And
you.
so I'm just going to ask you a few questions if you don't mind, and so some of the subscribers can kind of get to know you and see some of your beautiful work. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm Kimberly Deene Langlois. Deane is actually my middle name, and so I use
Oh,
that as my artist name. But my last name is Langlois, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I was born and raised in North Carolina. So that's the accent's here to stay. Nothing I can do about that. So, um, and I worked 30 years in the insurance industry, and I took an early retirement about, I guess it was about 3 years ago. So I've been painting full time and teaching art since, I guess it was 2017. And I love it. I mean, my job was great and it was good for helping to support my family, but it wasn't anything that I was just in love with. And so once I got out of that industry, I wanted to really do something that I felt fulfilled by. And so I think painting and just the creative part and teaching other people has just, it's something I love to do. So that's pretty much it. I have 4 adult children. I have 2 Boston Terriers that hang with me every day.
they're so cute too. I've seen
Oh, thank
pictures.
you. Thanks. Yeah, and so alcohol ink is really my medium of choice. So that's what I kind of go to mostly, and a little bit of encaustic wax. So that's
Beautiful.
about it.
So how did you come up with your floral designs? Because I know your class is spectacular and you've got a ton of people that have signed up for your class. So everybody wants to know how to do these flowers, and I see them all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I started out in alcohol ink, like I said, about 3 years ago. And I like the really, I sort of lean toward the abstract nature of the painting. So I use the alcohol inks in a real fluid nature. So I rarely use a brush I don't even know if I ever use a brush when I paint. So I use a lot of air to blow the flowers. And I had taken a couple of classes from other alcohol ink artists. And I wanted something to kind of set my paintings apart, kind of make it unique to me. And so I thought about creating something that looked a little dimensional in the center of the flower. I like the abstract petals, but then I also like to bring in something that looks a little realistic in the center of the flower. So, I studied flowers. I blew them up really big on my computer. I went out in my yard and I took pictures and just kind of got it really close. And I just tried, and I finally just using light and shadow pretty much. I figured out how to get those centers just to pop. And that's kind of been sort of the signature of my flowers.
Yeah, they're all like little dots,
A
like,
lot of little dots, yeah.
yeah, very intricate.
Yeah, and adding them in places to get that dimension come out. So you're really thinking about the light and the shadows and, getting that real depth in the middle.
And they do. They look like they pop right off the page.
Oh, thanks.
That's wild. So you said that you use mostly alcohol inks and you do some acoustic work as well. Do you do this, do you
Yeah.
do the petals and things in the acoustic, or is it something different that you work with?
Same thing. I took a class from Alexis Bonavita-Cola, and
Mm-hmm.
she used a little bit of encaustics in one. I think it was maybe one of her balloons classes, and so I started just working with that. It's blocks of wax. You use an iron just to melt the wax, kind of get it on the bottom, and just create different shapes on your paper. And so I've done some of that too, and I've also taken some classes and worked with encaustics in the traditional way, where it's using layers of wax on top of each other and getting some real depth. And in mixed media, you can embed different substrates and or materials into your wax. So
So
yeah, but alcohol ink is really, I think, what I use mostly, but I love the waxes too.
yeah, I've never tried a caustic, which is on
Oh,
my to-do
good,
list.
yeah. It's beautiful.
I use more materials. I'm trying to pare down. It's
Oh,
not
I
gonna
know, I
happen, is it?
know.
So, for what would you say your best tip for using alcohol inks were? And do you use metallics at all?
Yeah, I use metallics. I use them in a couple of different ways. I like abstract art a lot. So when I use metallics, um, just let me see if I've got. So I don't know. Can you see this
Yeah.
little thing here?
Oh, is that
So this
cute?
is, yeah. So this is more of just an abstract look, and you can see the metallics in there. So when I'm using like a hair dryer or a heat gun with this, you can just kind of add some alcohol or some blending solution. You can get those metallics to really flow, and they separate, which is really cool. And then I also use metallics in my flowers. Um, this is kind of a big piece. I don't know if you can see it, but this is on canvas.
Oh, isn't that
And
pretty?
I used some metallics like on top of my petals. You can see
Is it
that.
the
So I like,
gold? Is it gold? Is that
this
what you
is
have there?
gold. Yeah, yeah. So I like to use them in that way too, where you can see that layer on top.
Yeah.
It has a real nice shimmer to it. So yeah, I love the metallics.
So you paint on canvas as well. Use alcohol ink on canvas. So how do you
I
prep
do.
your canvas board? Everybody wants to know that.
I don't prep them.
You
No.
don't. So you just buy like pre-primed or the
I buy
white,
pre-primed and I just go for it.
and
Yeah.
it moves pretty good for you on there?
Yeah, I use a lot of alcohol just to get the ink moving, and it takes more ink and more alcohol to really move the ink on canvas, but it definitely works. It soaks in a little bit more, so you'll end up using more of your ink, just to get it to really show up well. But I love working on canvas.
Fun. So do
Yeah.
you prefer blending solution or alcohol to blending solution?
Alcohol.
You do.
Yeah. How about you?
I use both, but actually I don't use a lot of either.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just use the ink, so I am an ink waster.
Mhm.
I'll admit it.
Oh, I am too. Yeah, we all are.
I like the big bottles of the pinata,
Yeah, yeah.
especially
Yeah,
the gold.
pinata.
What is it, 8 ounces, I think, the 8-ounce bottles that they have.
Yeah, I love the rich gold. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, so another question for you is, do you ever have creative ruts, and how do you get out of it?
I do. Yeah, I think all of us do. So if I get in a really tough rut and I just can't come up with anything, I love to go on Instagram and just look at the work of all these other great artists that are putting their work out there, and you can just be so inspired by a certain technique or just something that's new and beautiful. There are always new things coming out. And then I also just like take a walk, around my yard or out in like, a trail or something and just look at trees and the flowers. And I'm really drawn to those things in nature. So that usually will just get me out of the rut, just to see, just walk around and see like some really cool shapes in the leaves or petals or something like that.
I know nature has its way, doesn't
Oh,
it?
oh yeah, yeah.
I can't wait for summer.
I know, spring. I
Everything's
love,
frozen.
yeah, and fall. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
fall's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So what are your favorite alcohol inks to work with? Do you have a brand that you like the best?
I lean toward Ranger inks. I have probably all of them. So, um, and as far as, and I use some of the T-Rex. Have you heard of the T-Rex inks?
I have not tried that yet though.
Yeah, I like those a lot, and I think they only have 11 colors right now. It's a brand new. It's only a two-person company. I mean, it's a couple who have come out with these new inks, and they're really vibrant. The color is beautiful, so I like those a lot. But I really tend to go toward the Ranger. But for the metallics, I use a Pinata always because I think those are the best when it comes to metallics.
So it's like a good spread then, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
I know
Um,
Ranger has so many colors. Do you mix a lot of
yeah.
your colors, or do you like to mix your colors, or do you just
Yeah,
use straight from the
I mix
bottle?
them up, and I don't really put my inks into like a palette that much unless I'm working on something very detailed, like a center of the flower. But I pour mine usually directly onto the substrate, onto the paper or the canvas, and blow them, or with my canned air or my airbrush. But the pinata, I mean the Ranger Pitch Black, I think is one of my all-time favorites. Have you ever used that?
I have.
All those beautiful colors.
All the colors. I did a class on that, my Zen Doodle, where that's the only color I used, and it just kept changing into all these different colors, the greens and peaches, and it's got lots of different shades. I don't know what they make it with. I guess everything, black, everything, right? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But when you're using that black and you're using blending solution or alcohol with it, and you blow it with air, all those colors just appear, and it's beautiful.
I love alcohol inks for my abstract stuff, though.
Yeah.
Because it does its own thing. It's the weirdest thing. Like, you just put alcohol ink down and you start to see stuff in it.
I know. Because then with the way that I paint, I try not to control it very much at all.
Yeah, it's more fun not to control the inks, right?
Yeah.
Let them do the thing for you. Yeah, because stuff just happens. And then if you have a creative mind, you see it like evolve on the paper.
That's right.
Go with the flow, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yep, that's what I do too. I love it. Now, do you use an airbrush?
I do. I use both. I use canned air probably more than anything else, but I use an airbrush too. Yeah.
Do you use one of those big airbrushes, or do you use like a mini airbrush?
I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it's
like I have a little tiny portable one. It's only like 15 psi's, and it's very
mine
light.
Is a bigger one. Yeah, it has the adjustable psi. It goes up to maybe 45 or so.
It's a little higher.
Yeah.
You spit your inks everywhere with it? Or are you pretty good, pretty controlled?
Now, I never blow the ink out of the airbrush. I usually just use it for air. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different than using the canned air. The canned air has a strong burst of air. It's really, like, if you're using a bigger surface, especially on canvas, and you kind of need that strong burst. Like for me, I do. But yeah, the airbrush is really good. I mean, it's more cost effective, and
you don't run out, right? There's always air.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't actually put the inks in the airbrush. People ask that because you don't want that stuff airborne.
No.
Such a fine mist. So that was one of the precautions when people have those really strong airbrushes, and especially when you're first learning, because it will go flying everywhere unless you have like this backdrop.
Yeah.
And especially for your bigger pieces. Speaking of bigger pieces, like, what's the biggest piece that you've ever done?
I've done like let's see, what would it be? Maybe 2 feet by 3 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a good size, especially for alcohol ink. Do you ever work on Yupo paper?
I do, yeah. Probably more than anything. I love Yupo.
And do you frame yours, or do you attach it to wood panels, or how do you work with
mostly frame. I do some wood panels, but then you get involved with the resin, and it's just time consuming. It takes up a lot of space. I mean, you have to have almost a separate place to do the resin, So
yes, you do.
That's a beautiful look, though. I mean, the resin, that glassy look. So I do some of that, but yeah, I mostly frame.
And do you put yours behind UV glass, or do you?
Yeah. I'm kind of super sensitive to the whole fading thing. So I definitely use the UV glass. I use lots and lots of coatings of UV protectant on all of my work.
And do you do sprays as well? So you use the sprays?
Yeah, I use the Kamar to first set the ink, and I use the UV. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
so that's what I do. I usually use UV glass. It's more expensive, but like my watercolors, because watercolors can fade as well.
Oh yeah.
And that with UV glass and out of direct sunlight. So, and I guess they've been around for quite a while, the inks now, but not long enough so that we'll know what happens years down the road.
Yeah, that's right. So gotta take care of them.
You do. So if someone wants to find you on Instagram or wants to take one of your classes, where do they have to go?
You can go to my Facebook page, which is Kimberly Deene Designs, and this is the same on Instagram, Kimberly Deene Designs, and it's the Deene is spelled Deene. It's kind of unusual. And then also my website would have everything there, which is KimberlyDeene.com.
Awesome. So I'll put the links down below for you guys too, so you won't have to remember that or know how to spell it.
Yeah.
least I've got your last name now.
Yeah, that's right.
I
That's
thought it
right.
was Dean. I'm sorry. I thought it was
That's
Dean.
okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
And we look forward to seeing all your other flowers and blooms coming up, because I know you're always working on new stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Loving your new group.
Yes. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.